Hello, everyone. I'm glad you can join me for another devotional message. Today, we're going to be talking about reliance upon God. We're going to start out by jumping right on into Daniel chapter 2, reading verses 1 through 19. In the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His spirit was troubled, and his sleep left him. Then the king commanded that the magicians, the enchanters, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans be summoned to tell the king his dreams. So they came in and stood before the king, and the king said to them, I had a dream, and my spirit is troubled to know the dream. Then the Chaldeans said to the king in Aramaic, O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, The word from me is firm. If you do not make known to me the dream and its interpretation, you shall be torn limb from limb, and your houses shall be laid in ruins. But if you show me the dream and its interpretation, you shall receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the dream and its interpretation. They answered a second time and said, Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show its interpretation. The king answered and said, I know with certainty that you are trying to gain time, because you see that the word from me is firm. If you do not make the dream known to me, there is but one sentence for you. You have agreed to speak lying and corrupt words before me till the times change. Therefore tell me the dream, and I shall know that you can show me its interpretation. The Chaldeans answered the king and said, There is not a man on earth who can meet the king's demand, for no great and powerful king has asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or Chaldean. The thing that the king asks is difficult, and no one can show it to the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. Because of this, the king was angry and very furious, and commanded that all the wise men of Babylon be destroyed. So the decree went out, and the wise men were about to be killed, and they sought Daniel and his companions to kill them. Then Daniel replied with prudence and discretion to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, who had gone out to kill the wise men of Babylon. He declared to Arioch, the king's captain, Why is the decree of the king so urgent? Then Arioch made the matter known to Daniel, and Daniel went in and requested the king to appoint him a time that he might show the interpretation to the king. Then Daniel went to his house and made the matter known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, and told them to seek mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that Daniel and his companions might not be destroyed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision of the night. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. So in the passage that was just read, the king asked these wise men to tell him the dream that he had and then give him the interpretation. Now, giving interpretations to dreams was something that these men were used to doing. They would probably usually just make up some viable prediction, and the king would believe them, much like people believe in psychics today. However, the king was no dummy, and so to prove that their interpretation wasn't just something they were making up, the king made them tell the dream itself, which they could not do. They told the king, There is not a man on earth who can meet the king's demand. For no great and powerful king has ever asked such a thing of any of the magicians or enchanters or Chaldeans. The thing that the king asked is difficult, and no one can show it to the king except they say the gods whose dwelling is not with flesh, that is not on this earth, not with us. They indeed were right that no human being could have told the king what he had dreamed. These wise men relied on their own abilities and their own cunningness to do things, but they were not really able to do what the king needed for them to do, which was proven by the simple fact that they could not tell the king what his dream was. They said that only the gods knew that, but their dwelling wasn't with us, which was certainly true because their gods were no gods at all. They didn't even exist. However, it certainly is true that no one except God could reveal this mystery. These wise men should have had a reliance on Jehovah God rather than their own abilities, but they were not even believers in the one true God, so they could only rely on themselves. Daniel, on the other hand, relied on God completely. After the wise men couldn't answer the king's question, The king was going to have all the wise men in the country, including Daniel and his friends, killed. As it says in verse 17 and 18, Daniel went to his house and made the matter known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, and he told them to seek mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that Daniel and his companions might not be destroyed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. You see, Daniel put his full confidence in God because he knew that he could not do it on his own. He went straight to his friends and asked them to pray to God that he might present to them a solution. And the scriptures say, then the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision of the night. If we put our reliance on God, then he will come through for us. God is mighty and he can do all things, and he can certainly help us with all the problems that come up in our lives if we rely on him. However, so often we rely on our own abilities, we rely on riches, we rely on our friends, we rely on the government, or we rely on other human institutions. All of the things of this earth will usually fail us at some point or another. We are limited in what we can do. Riches are so very uncertain, here today and potentially gone tomorrow. Our friends aren't perfect. The government is subject to corruption. Human institutions are created and ran by imperfect humans. Thus, all these things will likely fail us in some way, shape, or form. When I was at Faulkner University, our alma mater included the words, "You shall never fail," referring to the university. Since Faulkner is just a human institution, it probably will fail at some point. I actually tried to get them to change the words from "you will never fail" to "may you never fail," but to no avail. You see, all the things of this earth are just temporary. All people and man-made things are weak and subject to failure, but God is the only one that truly won't fail. Therefore, we need to put all of our hope and trust in him and not put our trust on anything in this earth. Now, I'm not saying that we cannot look to our friends for help and that we shouldn't use our abilities as much as we can, nor that we can't look to human institutions for help. But when it all comes down to it, we need to have our hope and trust in God and not on anything of this earth. We need to be people who look to God and speak to him first and foremost whenever we are hurting or in trouble or need something. God will be there to help us if we look to him for help. We simply need to know when to simply give it over to God and let him handle the situation instead of trying to handle it all ourselves. We need to be able to say, this is too big for me, and look to God for the help that we need. Let us make a pledge to always look to God for help and not always put our trust in ourselves or anything in this world. I would like to finish today by reading Jeremiah chapter 17, verses 5 through 8. Thus says the Lord, cursed is the man who trusts in man and makes flesh his strength, whose heart turns away from the Lord. He is like a shrub in the desert and shall not see any good come. He shall dwell in the parched places of the wilderness, in an uninhabited salt land. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is the Lord. He is like a tree planted by the water, that sends out its roots by the stream, and does not fear when heat comes, for its leaves remain green, and is not anxious in the year of drought, for it does not cease to bear fruit. I want to encourage you to put your trust in God, to pray to him, to seek his help in all things. We need to have a reliance upon God throughout our lives. Go to him in prayer and seek his help daily, to do all the things that we need to do, and especially to grow spiritually. As always, hope you've gotten something from today's lesson, and God bless you.